We're just over a month away from the release of Assassin's Creed Shadows, and we are seeing the attacks on gamers ramp up. And now, an Assassin's Creed news account says that they want to remove grifters from gaming completely. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, this is going to continue to happen, and it's really only going to get worse. Over the past decade, since the beginning of Gamergate 1, we have seen a lot of attacks on gamers, but since Gamergate 2 started almost a full year ago, it's really ramped up. We're constantly seeing hit pieces, and as a gamer, it's really shitty to see so many outlets and also news sites attack us for criticizing games. I get that they want to protect games. I want games to come out and be good, and then we won't have to protect them because they'll simply be amazing pieces of content. But if you are allowed to defend a company, we are allowed to criticize a company. And if you're going to defend a game, I'm also allowed to criticize it if I don't like it. And I am not a fan of what I've seen of Assassin's Creed Shadows so far. It seems that Ubisoft put the least amount of effort possible into hiring people for this game, into the development of this title, of even the historical accuracy of things like reenactment banners and the way characters would talk and the way that they would act. I mean, they put hip hop music behind Yasuke's combat. That's pretty shitty of them. But now, an Assassin's Creed news account is declaring it wants to remove so-called grifters from gaming. Now, this is not ran by any developers. This is not an official account, but it does still have a significant following, and that means that they are going to have people who are going to ultimately share their posts and agree with their posts. And if there's one thing about the internet, it's that if you post publicly, we are also allowed to react to it. And now the account is declaring there is no room in the Assassin's Creed community for racism, misogyny, hate, agitation, lies, death threats, and it concluded everyone who doesn't stick to it will be blocked. So it's time to reclaim gaming, which is funny because activists are really the only ones that have a hold on gaming right now, at least when it comes to inside of the industry. But of course, I agree with these things. There is no room anywhere for death threats and for hatred and for things like racism. But are you really going to tell me that some of the developers behind this project do not hate the very people that they are making games for? Are you really going to sit here and say that Yves Guillemot, the CEO of Ubisoft, has no hatred in his heart for gamers? Because he certainly does. He just a few months ago had complained that Star Wars Outlaws failed and said it's because gamers' expectations are too high. Yeah, my expectations are pretty high when you expect me to pay $70 to $130 for a game that I bought that was so broken I could not even finish it. Yes, my expectations are going to be high when you constantly are pumping out products that we do not like. So we expect more the next time a release rolls around. Just look at 2024, for example. Skull and Bones, we had been waiting so long for, it came out, it was a flop. X Defiant, we had been waiting a long time for, had been delayed for several years, came out, and it flopped. Star Wars Outlaws, we got Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor, which were amazing games. Those sold upwards of 15 million copies combined. Star Wars Outlaws couldn't even manage 2 million. And I'm not saying 2 million isn't a lot of people to have playing your game and buying your product, but it isn't the number that Ubisoft clearly expected. They put the most amount of money they ever had towards the marketing budget for this game. They probably expected 5, 6, 7 million copies sold across all platforms, and on Steam, it can't even top 5,000 people playing it. I mean, that is terrible for Star Wars and for Ubisoft. And this is just what happens when you have people behind companies who do not care about making products for gamers and treat us as walking wallets. Maybe you, as a news site and as a Ubisoft fan site, should question Ubisoft, so maybe they will make higher quality products and keep actually trying to move this franchise you claim to care about so much forward, because all they are doing is taking 20 steps back. We have been asking for an Assassin's Creed set in Japan for years and years, and what do they give us? Yasuke and Noe. And they seem like fine characters, I suppose, even though they are not accurate. Look at Yasuke. He was more of a retainer in real life than a full-blown samurai, but they're pumping up his story so that they can put him on a pedestal and say, oh, he deserves to be a lead in our game. They hired a historian who really knows nothing about the man Yasuke truly was. They are allowing you to romance all sorts of characters in this game. You can have LGBT romances when there was no indication this individual was interested in any sort of LGBT relationships. They have no respect for the historical individual that this person was. And with Noe, they basically have free reign to do whatever they want because she is a completely fictional character. But it just seems that they do not care about fans and making what we want, what we are going to buy. And now, of course, you've got these fan sites attacking us. Somebody asked, what if there are people who just don't like the fact that a company refuses to respect a culture and its history, but isn't trying to promote racism, misogyny, and hate? And they said, if you say it in a normal way, it's fine. Oh, okay, so if it's normal to them, classic. You're not allowed to actually speak the way you want. And they feel they're such an authoritative figure when it comes to Ubisoft that they can sit here and say, oh, you have to respond the way I want you to, which is really terrible. And it is a tactic admission that it is Ubisoft, the developer of Assassin's Creed Shadows, who is promoting and pushing much of the things the account accuses so-called grifters of doing. And the evidence of Ubisoft doing so is very long. First, the company worked with author Thomas Lockley to promote the idea that one of the game's main characters, Yasuke, was a legendary samurai. In fact, Ubisoft's executive producer for its Assassin's Creed franchise had actually told the New York Times that the company is going beyond what is accepted truth with the game. The game director had previously claimed the game would be used to teach players about the Sengoku era, and he wrote, we're at the end of the Sengoku era in a turning point of Japan history. Assassin's Creed is well known for its depiction of history and accurate recreation of the world and what its players can expect in Assassin's Creed Shadows, and it had previously been delayed. It has, gone through a lot of criticism, but it doesn't seem like they're really listening to us. The only time that they've apologized was when, in July, they said that they were creating this game for all sorts of people, but they apologized for creating concern within the Japanese community. They said, despite these sustained efforts, we acknowledge that some elements in our promotional materials have caused concern within the Japanese community. For this, we sincerely apologize. All game footage presented so far is in development, and the game will still keep evolving until launch. And based on the constructive criticism we have received, we will continue our efforts until we put the game into your hands and beyond. So they tried to damage control, but people really were not buying their BS, and it just seems that these attacks are going to ramp up as we get closer to launch. I still don't think it's going to release in February, because at the beginning of the month we have Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Only 4 days later we have Avowed, and I feel like launching this game on Valentine's Day is probably a bad decision on their part. So I think it's going to get delayed a little bit longer, but at this point in time, it is coming out in February, and now we have news accounts attacking us and saying that they want to remove grifters from gaming. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.